This role play is fabricated. All people, places, and events discussed is fabricated. How you doing today, Amanda?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Did you have a was it easy to find the office for you?
Pretty easy. I was actually surprised. Normally, I'm a little bit directionally challenged, so I,
Yeah,
I was surprised to find it.
yeah, I always worry about that because the office is kind of like located in the back, so a lot of people have trouble. But I'm glad you were able to find it all right.
Thank you.
Okay, if you don't mind, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. I got your referral, and I wanted to kind of go over it with you and kind of see if that what on the referral was right and what you wanted to discuss about it today. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So on the referral, it says that you've been a social drinker for 5 years, and that you noticed the increase in the past for the an increase in the past, and for like the last 6 months, you've been noticing an increase in your drinking, and it's kind of been difficult for you to decrease the drinking. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And I want to first talk about what brought you in here today. Like, was it because sometimes people come to therapy and it can be family or it could be them. Can you kind of talk about what led you here today to reach out to us?
Yeah, it was more my family. They just kind of said that they thought I was having some issues, and I don't really think that my problem's that big of a problem, but
Hmm.
they were really concerned, and they said that they wanted me to come see somebody.
Okay. So they suggested it, right? And then you went ahead and reached out and made the appointment yourself?
Well, my parents actually were the ones that called in, but I told them
Okay.
that I would go ahead and attend.
Okay. So you did kind of, they called in and made the appointment, but you kind of did decide to just go ahead and come on in today.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to start there with that little information and kind of ask you some further questions with that. So I wanted to first ask you a scaling question. So I wanted to ask you on a scale of 1 to 10 being absolutely yes. And well, I'm sorry, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being absolutely yes and one being no way, how motivated are you to decrease your drinking?
Right now I think I'm at like a 2 or 3. I really don't think I have a problem.
Okay. Okay. So why a two and I guess a two versus a five? Because you kind of think, can you explore that with me a little bit? Because is it because you don't think you have a drinking problem really?
Yeah, I don't really think I have a problem. I rated it at 2 just mostly because, my family is making me come, so I guess they see something wrong, but I'm not
Okay.
really seeing a reason to change yet.
Okay. So you don't see any reason to change yet?
No.
Okay. So what would it take, you think, if you to move it from a two to like a number five?
I think probably just realizing that maybe something I'm doing is wrong.
Okay, something more than what you've kind of seen at the surface now.
Yeah.
Okay, so I wanted to explore that a little bit. So it said on the referral that your drinking has in the increased in the last 6 months. Can you tell me if there are any new behaviors that's also been going on in the last 6 months with you?
I don't really think so. I think I've just been going out with friends more than I normally do.
Okay. Anything anything changed in your personal life? Are you working right now or are you in school?
I'm working and in school.
Okay. Any changes to work or school?
Um, Not really. I'm working full time, doing school full time, but I've been late an awful lot lately.
Okay. How long you think you've been late? And I'm gonna take a little notes if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Um, it's probably been at least the last 4 or 5 months that being late for work has really become, I guess, kind of a problem.
Okay. How often do you think you're late to work?
Almost every day. Sometimes it's 5 minutes. Sometimes it's 3 hours. Just
Okay.
whenever I can get up.
You said almost 3 hours you're late to work?
Some days.
Okay. Okay. And what do you think is contributing to you getting late to work some days?
I think it's just not being able to get up. I mean, we're staying out really late and we're drinking, pretty much until we go to bed. So I think it
Okay.
comes to the next morning and I just don't want to get out of bed.
Okay, so do you think, so you mentioned two, I wanted to talk about those two things you said. So you said when you're out late, or you saying that you're accumulating more alcohol when you're out the later that you are out?
Yeah.
Okay. So it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, that maybe the you staying out late is because it says that you're a social drinker. So I guess, is it because the later you stay out, the more drinks you consume when you're out?
I think so, because the later we're out, it just seems to be like the more we drink. Because instead of just kind of like taking those drinks and expanding them over, a 6 hour period, you just kind of just keep drinking because that's what everybody else is doing. And a lot of times I just lose control over how many I've even had.
Okay. And I want to kind of talk about a time then when you weren't late. So you said you've been kind of late to work for the last 4 months. And I want to talk about when you were on time to work. How, when you were able to get up and be to work on time, about how many hours approximately were you able to sleep, or did you think that you needed sleep that you were able to get up?
I think I was able to get enough sleep back then, but I was also not staying out as late as I am
Okay, so about how many hours were you getting kind of roughly when you were being able to get to work on time?
now. Like 6 hours.
6 hours. So would you say that 6 hours is probably kind of like what you kind of need to get to work on time?
I think to like get up and not only get on time, but just to like have the motivation to get up and go.
Okay, okay. And what, so that's a good point that you know that. I'm glad that you're able to kind of reflect and think about a time, because we also want to talk about a time where things were good, so that you were able to get to work on time. You said about 6 hours of sleep that you were getting. How many hours of sleep would you say that you've been getting now?
Maybe 2 or 3.
Okay. So you're getting only 2 to 3 hours of sleep now, and it's causing you to be late to work. And is it because you're kind of staying out later, or are you getting home and not being able to sleep?
I think it's just staying out later.
Okay.
Um, because not only are we staying out, but then we're drinking more, and so I think it's a combination of both drinking
Okay.
more and staying out late.
Okay. Okay. Has there ever been a time, Amanda, that in your life where you've been able to make your mind up to do something challenging and that you were able to do it?
Um, yeah, I used to be able to do that all the time. And I think it was maybe just not as much stress as I have right now. So
Mhm.
when I was, living back home or something, I was able to create a smaller task and, it seemed pretty easy to achieve. And now that I'm working and have school and I've got bills to pay, I've got all this extra stress that I'm worried about. So I guess maybe sometimes I just use the alcohol as just a way of, you know, dealing with it because I don't want to anymore.
Yeah.
Never had
Yeah.
issues with projects or deadlines with work or anything, and I was always, the top employee at work, and now it just seems like everything's so stressful that that partying time when I get to go with my friends is just that time that I need to just relax.
Yeah, yeah, and I totally understand that. When you get in the flow of bills and this adult life that we have, and the stresses of work, a lot of people, you're not alone in that situation. Use like there's happy hours are very popular, things like that. Where socializing with friends is kind of like that relief time. But I also want to talk about. It sounds like it's a relief time, but then it's also causing some extra stress in your life to where you are becoming late to work. Can I ask you a question of what do you think will continue? What will you think will happen if you continue on this path of being like 2 to 3 hours late to work? I guess by staying out late and consuming a lot of alcohol throughout the week.
Yeah, I mean, I think eventually my boss is just going to get kind of mad at me and just, give up on that. And so they'll probably end up firing me from my job, which
Yeah.
isn't good because then I'll probably end up losing my house too.
Oh wow. Oh wow. So that's definitely, you talked about some more stressors. So possibly losing your job and then losing your house. So how does that kind of make you feel now, just kind of thinking about the worst case scenario of this?
Pretty worried.
Hmm. Yeah, I would. That sounds kind of worrying to experience this. So, can I ask you a question? I wanted to talk a little bit about, since you have been kind of a social drinker and it's increased in the last 6 months. Is there any like amount, since you said that you need about 6 hours of sleep? Is there in your mind where you think that you can, I guess ideally, what would be like the time that you would need? I guess, leave, to be able to leave with your friends, to get home, to get those hours of sleep, if you were able to do that? Not saying that if you're not ready to do it now, but just what would that look like?
I think, if I was gonna set a time, it'd probably have to be either like 11 or 12. Um, because I think it's not only, it's not necessarily, like you said, just leaving your friends,
Hmm.
but then it's getting home and doing your nightly routine and everything else. So even if I was to leave at, like midnight or 1 in the morning, by the time I'm done showering and getting
Right.
to work the next day, it's like 2 or 3 in the morning and I'm still not getting to bed. So probably, like, if I had to pick a time, probably like 11 o'clock.
Okay. So at least you have a kind of an idea of that a kind of 11 o'clock is kind of the time to where, if you kind of like, if you're out and you're like, if you wanted to make the decision and say, hey, I know if I'm here a little past 11 o'clock, then I may be late to work.
Right.
Okay. So I think that's a very good start to kind of know that time limit in your, to kind of keep track of that when you're out. If you're like, hey, we all have that personal choice. If you're like, wanting to stay out. But I think if you kind of, that might help you if you're out and like, hey, it's past 11. So that way you're already kind of thinking about the consequence that if I stay out a little longer, I may be late to work. So do you think that can help you, motivate you when you're out, to kind of end it at that certain time?
I think so. And maybe even setting like a timer on my phone or
Okay, that would
something.
be great.
Because a lot of times, when we're out hanging with our friends and stuff, I lose track of time. I don't even realize that it's as late as
Yeah.
it is. So maybe if a timer or something goes off, then it would at least, clue me into what time it really is. And then I can make sure, like you said, to make that decision of, do I want to stay out later and be really tired, or do I
Right.
just saying goodbye now?
Yeah, I think that would be a great idea. You mentioned some great small tasks that you can do when you're out, of setting that alarm. What else? Okay, so we talked about the alarm, setting it for probably like 11 o'clock. And then is there any certain number of drinks you get that you think that kind of makes you, that are kind of like too much for you? Or do you want to just start with the time? Or do you think you need to kind of limit your drinks when you're out?
I think I probably need to limit my drinks too, because I think that plays a part in it. Because once you've had a few, and then I'm not really thinking the way I normally would. So I think that even if I set an alarm and I didn't control my drinks, it would just, I would just probably hit the alarm off.
That's a good point. That's a very good point.
And I think that may be a part of it too, is that over the last several months, I just, that normal feeling that we get when we're drinking with friends and stuff, I haven't been getting that. So I think I've been drinking more to try to reach that feeling. And so I think if maybe I just tell myself it doesn't matter, I can only have, so many drinks, then I think that would help.
Yeah, I think you brought up a very good point, because we all have different tolerance levels. Everybody tolerance level is different with the amount of alcohol they consume. And a lot of times the things I've worked with clients in the past who are drinking, is, that tolerance kind of builds up over time. So if you're kind of drinking more lately, the tolerance gets a little higher. So I'm glad that you're able to recognize that your tolerance and I don't know, maybe getting a little bit more. So sometimes you would need more alcohol intake. Do you have any, I know you talked about limiting that, and that was great. Do you have any amount or number in your head, or that you can think of, that you would kind of want to start?
Um, I guess finding a number is kind of hard, but maybe like
Yeah.
4,
How many? I'm sorry.
maybe like starting with only having 4,
Okay.
making sure that I know that, like, don't have all that at one time too, like maybe working on like spacing it out over the time
Okay.
too.
Okay. Well, I think that's a very good start. I mean, we talked about you setting, I think it's a great idea to set an alarm. We talked about setting the alarm, you said, for 11 o'clock, and then kind of limiting your alcohol intake to about 4 drinks during that evening. So I think that's a very good start. Is there anybody you think that, like, for supports that you think can help you out, or do you think it'd be easier for you to do it like on your own?
I think I like to think that I can do it on my own. And sometimes, when my parents and stuff get involved, I don't always, I guess, appreciate that. But I do have my parents, and I think my friends will support me in this.
Okay. Well, I think that would be very good to have those supportive friends, because it's the friends that you're out drinking with, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that would, if you feel like they're supportive and you can share that with with them, I recommend you. I think that would be great for you to do that, because maybe they can kind of, if they are supportive, they can kind of hold you accountable and kind of, even with your alarm clock, with the number of drinks, and kind of keeping track with you on that.
Yeah, I think that would help too, because I think if they, helped encourage me that if they saw me check my phone or they heard the alarm go off, just kind of remind me and be like, hey, it's time to go or
Yeah.
whatever. And, even if I saw one of them or something get up to leave, maybe that would help, encourage me to get up and do the same thing.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful too. I think we're off to a great start. Do you have any questions for me?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, well, I look forward to meeting with you. When is the next time you want to meet back and kind of discuss how plans are going with the 11 o'clock, the alarm, and the 4 drinks? I wanted to kind of talk about how that's going, because, change is hard. It's not easy, and sometimes it's not always going to be perfect. But I think it would be also helpful if you maybe keep a diary to kind of keep track, so that you are able to kind of praise yourself when you are able to meet your curfew and the limited amount of drinks, and then also able to look back if you're not able to look at it and kind of see the pattern, if you were late to work that day or being early, so that you can kind of keep track of that pattern. That might be helpful also.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful.
Okay, so did you think you want to meet back in a month or 2 weeks to discuss your progress?
Probably a month. Give me a little bit of time to work on the change.
Okay, I think a month is fine. What you can do is just meet with the receptionist in the front and schedule your next meeting. But I look forward to working with you and seeing you the next time in 30 days. And I wish you the best of luck.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. This role play is fabricated. All people, events, and discussions are fabricated.